Today, I'll be chatting with the woman who's training teams to achieve best results.
I think happy teams, motivated teams end up resulting in good performance. It's a byproduct. So the number for me was always a byproduct of the team, and that's not always understood.
You'll be learning how to make your team overcome their challenges through your support.
If you've got a really heavy challenge versus low support, John, that's not a nice team to be in. So I think it's looking at that quadrant and making sure that you're in the right place.
We'll also learn how to ease off on the pedal in order to go further with your team.
I think one of the attributes of a really good leader, and it's in line with what you're saying, John, is a leader that's able to read the room, a leader that's able to, spot the body language, spot what's not being said, the non-verbals, and say, guys, do you just want to rest? We take a rest now.
Yeah.
And, to be able to do that, yes, absolutely.
The theme for this season is Embracing Life's Tapestry, and my guest is Kate Rooney. Kate, you had a very successful career in the retail sector. You're now running the business called the OnLegs Agency. What circumstances in life shaped you to become the person you are today?
With regards to work, John, I think I always worked with people. And although I was heavily involved in the retail sector, even at a retail director level, I was people first. And that's not always the case, with head offices and directors of retail, etc. I think sometimes the higher up people within the retail sector go, the more they forget about the people and where they came from. And that wasn't the case for me. So I think with regards to what shaped me, it was the people and always being for the people, if that makes sense. And trying to be there for them, which made the OnLegs Agency, which is coaching and team coaching and, people focused, a very, very natural progression.
I was watching that program there recently. I think it was in RTE. It was called Inside Pennies or Inside Primark. And I was looking at the life of people working in Primark in Europe or in Ireland or the UK. And I do remember one person talking about, and this person is a senior manager in Pennies nowadays, where he was talking about when he was a young manager in a store and Arthur Ryan came to the store. He has good memories and he's got bad memories. And I think it's more a case of the fact that, senior manager will call out poor performing stores. The store manager will take it personally and they have to do something about it to turn around the performance in the store. And so therefore what you're saying is it's more about performance than the people that the senior management get at, I suppose you could say. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think there's something lost in that, John, because I think happy teams, motivated teams end up resulting in good performance. It's a byproduct. So the number for me was always a byproduct of the team, and that's not always understood.
And of course, in the retail sector, it's the team has to be seamless because if the person who's in charge of the stock room is not doing their job right, for example, you end up with stock in boxes running out in the out in the sales floor, and therefore you're losing opportunity to generate sales because you had a stock on the sales floor that people want. So it's all about working together as a team within the store to get the best out of each person in that store to contribute to growing the sales, growing the turnover, growing the pride in the store. I think that's where the team management comes into it so
Yeah,
much.
absolutely. And team, I now have moved into team coaching. And in that arena, it's all about the entire team, not individuals within the team. No team is made up of an individual. It's made up of multiple people that together work, for a common goal. And your example there with regards to the retail sector is very, very apt, in that instance.
And did you find when you worked in retail first that it took you a while to transition from being a member of staff to becoming a manager? And how did you manage that transition, for example?
I didn't find the transition difficult. I found all my transitions easy enough from sales floor to managing the team that I was working with, to moving into a regional role, to then moving into a director role. I found those transitions easy, but I think that was because I was a good communicator and I communicated, what I would do, how I would do it the whole way along. And I think the other reason I found that easy was I was an open book. You knew where you stood with me as a team member. So moving into a manager, I didn't change who I was. I was Kate, the store girl, versus Kate, the manager. I had a different responsibility, but it didn't change how I treated people. And I think that made my transitions quite easy.
So you're an open book. Would you have a hard or a soft center?
Oh, soft, absolutely soft.
And when you're talking to a sales team, for example, and they want to do better in terms of their performance and generate more leads, more customers, more sales, would you try to put your words in a way that the team benefits, or would you be kind of trying to go those people out of their comfort zone?
I think a challenge is absolutely necessary, healthy challenge. And actually, I was only off a webinar this morning and we put it beautifully on that. It was about high challenge with high support. So if we've got a challenging leader, and I would have been a challenging leader, there's no doubt about that, but I back that up with high levels of support, high levels of care, high levels of what it is do you need to be able to deliver the challenges that I want. So I think the two go hand in hand. If you've got a really heavy challenge versus low support, John, that's not a nice team to be in. So I think it's looking at that quadrant and making sure that you're in the right place. Likewise, if you've got, let's say, really low challenge and really high support, we're colluding. All I'm doing is agreeing with everything you say. If you're saying I'm going to get it tough, oh, you're right. I understand you haven't had the training. There's no move on there. So it's high challenge, high support together that I believe pushes a team forward.
Yeah, I actually saw a very interesting post on LinkedIn by Dave Heiner one time, and he said, leaders push from behind. And I responded, that's great, but better leaders or great leaders, they know when to stop, allow their team members to get at their thoughts and to re-energize themselves before they move forward again. So there's a danger if you have a leader who pushes too much and they push people far beyond their comfort zone and then they fall over.
Mm-hmm.
I think a really good leader knows when to stop and to let people get at their thoughts and then fill their water bottle, fill their, uh, and then go again, re-energized.
I think one of the attributes of a really good leader, and it's in line with what you're saying, John, is a leader that's able to read the room, a leader that's able to, spot the body language, spot what's not being said, the non-verbals, and say, guys, just want to rest. Will we take a rest now?
Yeah.
And, to be able to do that. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and that can be very difficult in a retail environment where there's always competition between retailers. For example, if you just take the food sector here in Ireland, you have Dunnes Stores, you have Tesco, you've got SuperValu, you have Aldi, you have Lidl, for example, and they're all competing for market share. Now, when Aldi and Lidl came in, they really upped the game here in Ireland in terms of food retail. If you take, the more clothing sector, you have a lot of UK multinationals here in Ireland now. They're all competing for the same few clients. So I think there's always competition there to do better, to outsmart your competitor, to get more and more leads into the store, get more and more sales. It's a very, very dynamic and tough environment to work in.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. What inspires you most to be successful in life?
I think my own self, I'm very, very self-disciplined and pretty self-motivated. So it's not about other people's expectations of me. It's not about what other people, think I should do or could do. I've just got a good driving force inside, a nice innate driving force that tends to, take me forward. I want to be able to sit down and know I did my best. I want to be able to, in many years' time, not have the regrets, know I give it a try. And if it doesn't work out, John, that's okay. That's okay. But, better to have given it a go. So I suppose my driving force is it's been able to sit contented that I've done what I wanted to do, in the way I wanted to do it, which is really important.
Yeah, I've noticed that from your social media posts. You kind of strike me as a person who kind of pushes themselves hard, whether it's in the gym or going on these walks up the Mourne Mountains, for example, and even doing these headstands, I must say. That
Yes,
takes a challenge. That's a challenge in itself to be able to do a headstand on the side of a mountain. So fair play to you.
it is when
And
the wind is high.
yeah. And I noticed there recently you've invested in yourself and you've invested in becoming a better team coach. So what
Yes.
inspired you to move away from one-to-one coaching towards team coaching, for example?
So one-to-one coaching is still a huge part of my business and will continue to be. And I love that intimacy that we have in a one-to-one. But there is nothing like the energy of a team in a room and the multiple personalities and the multiple, needs and challenges. And to be able to sit in that space. And it's wrong to say help because that's not what I do as a coach. The room help itself, the team help themselves. They know what they're doing. To witness that, to be able to, nudge the conversation at times, to be able to reflect back what's happening in the space, that energizes me at a level I can't even explain, John. So that was a very natural progression. I was just waiting for the right course and hadn't found one until last year to be able to, I suppose, finesse what I was doing in the team coaching world and have a qualification attached to it.
So you've done your team coaching diploma. You're now offering that service to your clients. What's next for Kate Rooney?
Goodness, let me draw a breath first, John. I think this year is definitely going to be a huge focus on the team coaching. So you will see that a lot of what I'm going to be talking about and where my focus will be around the team dynamics and the team coaching and learning as much as I can in that area and getting as much experience in that area as possible without leaving behind the one-to-one. That does bring me out of retail a good bit, John, and at present, about 80% of my work is now non-retail, even though my background would have been highly retail orientated. And I suppose I sometimes get pigeonholed with retail, but I was leadership, people, strategy, project management. It happened to be in the retail sector, but it could have easily been anywhere. And I'm able to now use those skills in areas completely outside of the retail sector, which is great because I love diversity.
So what you're saying there, effectively, Kate, is that you built up these skills within the retail sector of managing people, taking leadership roles, project management, and now you're able to transition those skills and bring them to different sectors. So what sort of sectors have you transitioned into aside from
Gosh,
retail?
I've been with everyone. I've been with retail, I've been with wholesale, I've been with pharmaceutical, I've been with accountancy, which is somewhere that you don't expect my experience to land me. So I'm working with any team, regardless of sector, that are having a challenge or getting stuck or need somebody to come in from a coaching perspective,
Yeah.
in that area. And that the area that they work within is absolutely irrelevant because when we're in the coaching room, we're not talking about sales, whether it be if it's a retail group. We're not talking about, the deadlines that they have to meet. We're talking about how they work as a team. And teams are the same regardless of sector. They have the same challenges, which is usually collaboration, communication, engagement, frank and honest conversation. So if you imagine you have a team of 10, the name above the door, it's actually quite irrelevant. It's the people, not the environment, not the company. That's important.
Yeah. You mentioned one word there that really is close to my heart, which is collaboration. And I think too often you get it in situations where people confuse collaboration with what's the compromise.
Mm.
And they think it's the same thing. It's not. Compromise is win-lose. Collaboration is win-win. And I think it's really important in a team scenario is, particularly for the quieter people in a team, they have to be able to find their voice and be able to assert themselves and not to be afraid to push the boundaries of the more competitive people in that team to say, I'm part of a team here. My opinion is as valid as yours is. Let's work towards collaborating and achieving that win-win situation, not compromising. Because what happens is if you have compromise, the person that's in the strong position comes out on the top all the time. That's not necessarily good for team dynamics, in my opinion.
And that's you've just hit on one of the main, I suppose, the main reasons to have a good coach in the room is that all voices in the room are heard. So a good coach will spot the person that's being quiet, spot the person that's maybe dominating the conversation, that's not allowing the other person to speak, And a good coach is able to, without directing or challenging, allow all voices to be heard so that we get a good broad spectrum of opinions at the table. And that's one of the really lovely things about coaching, John. The other thing, and I was only chatting about this the other night, I had a workshop on, and we were talking about, how do you get heard, personal brand, etc. And I think it's really important that you don't have to be loud to be heard, and you don't have to be brash, and bright to be heard. I've got two mentors in my life that made massive impact to me, John. They were the quietest people in the room. They had the softest voices in the room. But when they spoke, you leaned in, because they didn't speak that often. That when they did, it was because they'd something to say. And, so it's important that the quiet, soft voice doesn't get lost. And a good team coach will ensure that that happens.
Yeah. What you're
That
saying
doesn't
there is
happen
those
even.
2 or 3 people had impact.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Good point. I do remember reading an article there recently on LinkedIn. It was by Greg Williams, who's an American guru on negotiation. And what he talked about was, if you find yourself in a position whereby you're dealing with an aggressive negotiator who's going to try and push you to concede a lot towards their cause, one of the most beneficial ways of you dealing with that is to say, no, I'm ending this conversation here and now. And that forces them then to think about their position. And then they might come back with a softer approach the next time around and a more collaborative approach. So, when you're dealing with aggressive personalities in the workplace, people need to be able to say to themselves, I'm going to say no, and say it firmly and move on, and let them think about their own attitude towards people in the room.
Absolutely. It's a matter of boundaries, John.
Yeah.
And it's a matter of, knowing what your limitations are and what you will accept, accept and not accept. Yeah. And
Yeah.
that's really important. There's
Yeah.
non-negotiables. There's
Yeah.
ways I will not be spoken to.
Yeah.
And that's just that. And no means, let's end the conversation.
Yeah. Because what people have to realize in managerial positions is what floats your boat mightn't necessarily float another person's boat. But you have to talk to people in the way they want to be treated, not how you want to be treated yourself. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think really, really early on in my career, and some of my background with my father, and I would
Yep.
have been, with people a lot as a child. So you pick up on energy, and you pick up on, what's not being said and the nonverbal cues, etc. So I was very good, very early in the career at knowing what buttons to press, figuring out what made you tick, and what way did I have to behave around you to get the most out of you, and that might be different for Mary. Mary might need a softer approach, you might need a challenging approach. So I learned very quickly what buttons to press with people, but to do that in an authentic way.
Yeah. There's nothing as bad as the person who decides, I'm going to poke my finger into Kate's flesh to hurt her to get the result I want. To me,
Simply
that's
doesn't work.
aggressive negotiation. That's manipulation. I don't like that type of thing. I think it's, we all need to have our buttons pressed or pushed at some stage in our life to get us out of our comfort zone. As Dave Heiner said one time, push the boundaries of the box from the inside out. You have to be able to push your comfort zone. One final question here for you, Kate. This has been an excellent conversation so far today. If you were granted the opportunity to have one single request granted without question, what would that be?
For me personally,
Yeah,
or
yeah, yeah. Personally, you.
um gosh, good question, John. I'm not usually left speechless, but you've caught me. There'll be a lot of people watching going, well, John, you finally did it. If I had one wish that could be granted to me
Without question.
without question, oh my goodness, John. Oh my goodness. It's a tough one. I suppose I seek joy. Joy is what I seek. Joy is what gives me fulfillment, and joy is different to everybody. Um, and what brings you joy? We could go on now for another 10 hours. I suppose ultimately we want to find joy. We want to be happy. We don't want to have any struggles, you know, and I'm saying that struggles do push us on as well. So this is why I'm probably, gosh, if all my struggles left would I be as competitive and as motivated as I am? Maybe not. So, you know, what do you let go of? One thing, if I could choose anything, what would it be? John, I am finding that really difficult to answer. Really difficult to answer. Don't know what that says.
Yeah.
What
I
have
think,
other people said, John?
well, I think you mentioned there the word joy.
Yeah,
You did say that you are a very competitive person. So I think that's a great answer to, in a roundabout way to you want people to be happy in life, I suppose you
yeah.
could say in your case.